Hey everybody, it's Jolly and welcome back to my channel. And I'm back this week with another recap of week 4 of my 100-day project. And yeah, this week overall I think was a real mixed bag, I guess. I was really busy at work this week, and so I didn't really have as much time during the week to, get real intricate or whatever with my makes, which I should have said up top, I'm doing 100 days of mixed media Twinchies, or 2 inch by 2 inch squares. Um, so overall, there are quite a few this week that I feel mostly meh about. But there are a couple that I really like, and in fact, the one I just did today, I'm filming this on Saturday, March 21st, and the one I just made is actually probably the favorite thing I've made so far. So yeah, mixed bag, but overall, either way, I'm really happy that I've stuck with it through 4 weeks already. And yeah, let's get into it. So first up this week, so last Sunday, March 15th, the prompt was pinwheel. And so I made a pinwheel. And so this is actually something that I put this prompt on the list specifically because this is something that I saw Shauna at Shanuki Art here on YouTube make for one of her full deck challenges, and wanted to incorporate into. I did the full deck challenge 3 last year, and it's something that I wanted to try, but just didn't have a card or a prompt that it fit with. So I added the prompt and randomly pulled the prompt this time. So I got to kind of make one. So a very small one. But yeah, so basically to make this, I used a scrap of a book page that I had already sprayed green for a different project as the background. And then I made the actual pinwheel out of a scrap of, so this is an old vintage ledger page that Patty over at Sacred Mementos um, printed one of her uh, printables essentially on the back of it over top of the ledger page. So there's kind of this classic ledger page on the back and then a design on the front. And so, and if you can see, the design is actually printed over the vintage handwriting, which is very cool. Um, and yeah, and so I used that and I made a tiny little pinwheel out of it, and it is functional. It does spin, which is very fun. So yeah, made a little pinwheel and then put a brad in the center so that it could spin. And for the words, I used giving ourselves over to surrealism, which feels both appropriate for a pinwheel and for the year 2026 in general. So where we're at in the world. So yeah, had a lot of fun with this. Love how it turned out. Love the how interactive it is. I also love that. So this was not intentional, but I did realize that John is on the book page, and then somewhere on this written page, I'm not sure if it got completely covered up, but the name John is also written in the vintage handwriting. So again, not intentional at all, but a very cool kind of bit of serendipity. So, and then I actually just ended up putting another piece on the back and propping it up with foam tape so that the brad could turn unimpeded and I could still stamp on the back. So yeah, that was day 22, March 15th, pinwheel. Day 23 for March 16th, the prompt was balloon. And this is what I ended up with. So the background is a piece of origami paper, actually, that has this cool, felt to me like, wind and swirling winds and clouds. And then the balloon I just cut out of a piece of Florentine paper that I got from Kate at Inked Paper Art. and just drew with a pen over the balloon and made a little basket. And uh, I also did a little gold splattering on the background. And then for the words, I found I safely ride. And so, again, this is one where I'm like, I really love the balloon. I wonder if I should have done more with the background. I debated kind of, painting clouds in the background. But again, I just sort of decided to let it be simple with the time I had. And I was also really annoyed that I don't know, I put it so off center, but actually it kind of works with the paper because the, just the way the swirls are going, it kind of feels like it's being blown to the left. So overall, I'm good with it. I love, love, love how the pattern on the balloon worked. I love it's kind of a cool Victorian, almost steampunky in a weird way, um, hot air balloon. So yeah. So again, that was day 23 balloon, March 16th. And then March 17th, of course, was St. Patrick's Day. And so obviously this prompt was not pulled at random, but I couldn't make a make on this day without a nod to the day. And this is what I ended up with. So yeah, basically for the background, I went over the white cardstock with um, some vintage photo distress ink. And then I actually decoupaged some. I have a scrap of tissue paper that had shamrocks on it that I got in some order for something, probably years ago. And so that was the background. Again, more gold splatter. And then I have this. This is from a vintage flashcard that I scanned and shrunk way down. Um, and one of the best things about this week is that I actually finally figured out my printer settings because I bought matte photo paper, but was printing on it with the wrong settings. And so I finally got the right settings. And so this is one of my scanned cabinet cards that I printed out, and the quality of the printout, is much better now. But I still did my little packing tape hack over it. So I actually went over it with two different shades of, these are watercolor markers um, by, I think, Winsor and Newton, or De La Rowney, one of those. Um, but yeah, but that's another great thing that happened this week is I pulled out supplies that I've had forever, but I haven't used in a long time. One of those is these watercolor markers. So um, I use those over top of the printout to give him sort of a green jacket and green tie. And then I stamped this hat and colored that in as well. The hat is actually the thing that I probably like the least about this, that bothers me the most, is it looks, I don't know if I should have put it down, either picked a different hat or put it down farther on his head. I don't know. It just feels like it's kind of floating on top of his head. But anyway, overall, this just kind of a fun Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day theme make. So yeah. So again, that was March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. Our little leprechaun with a pot of gold. And then day 25, March 18th. This was one of my favorites of the week for sure. And the prompt was skull. And so for this one, the background is a scrap of a backdrop from Tim Holtz from his one of his Halloween collections. Um, and I really fought my urge to want to splatter on it, but I liked how it looks like very old, grungy wallpaper. And then this is one of my cabinet card gentlemen that I decapitated for this project. And then I ended up stamping. I have a stamp set that's all tarot cards, and so this is the image that's for the death card. And so again, similar to the last one, I stamped it and then I colored it with watercolor markers and then re-stamped over top of it and got this really cool striking skull. Um, and then I ended up picking the words, he died of a broken heart. And so I added a tiny little heart uh, in black as well. So But yeah, overall, I just love the composition, love the contrast. Um, Definitely one of my favorites of this week by far. And so, again, that was day 25, March 18th, Skull. Whoop. And then day 26, March 19th, the prompt was ticket. And so here's what I ended up with for this one. So the background, very simple. I actually did put down book page, but it all got covered. And these are real vintage tickets that I got from Crafty Lisa Vintage. I think they were actually just a freebie, but they were the exact perfect size for this. So I just sort of lined them up on the background and inked around them and made for a very easy, quick background. And then this gentleman is again one of my cabinet card scans, and put tape over him and cut him out. And one of the things that I've really been doing this week too is propping up my focal points. So, and this one I even popped up the words as well. And I just really like how it creates shadows and sort of sets it off from the background. So that's something that I did in a couple of my makes. I also did it here on this one. The skull itself is actually popped up a little bit with some foam tape. So, yeah. So again, this was prompt day 26, March 19th, and the prompt was ticket. Day 27, the prompt was zigzag, and it was for March 20th. And zigzag was a prompt that I added to the list after doing it. It was part of the Seek, Gather, Create for February, and I liked that as a prompt, so I went with that. And this is what I ended up with. And again, very simple background. I had ordered something off Etsy, and it came in a little bag that had a zigzag pattern on it. So obviously I saved that. And then just did some gold splatter on it. Another of my cabinet card gentlemen. And this one, before I put the tape on, I actually used my gel pens and added a zigzag pattern in gold and silver over his bow tie. So again, very simple one, but actually also I picked this guy. I went back and forth on which gentleman I should use, but I like this guy because I even thought his hairline had a little bit of a zigzag, which I thought was fun. So yeah, very simple make, but that was day 27 zigzag. And then what I consider my showpiece of the week, I made this morning, and it's day 28. And the prompt was beach, and I made it today. And this is what I ended up with, which I absolutely love, love, love how this turned out. This was an experiment that I've been wanting to do for a while now. So if you can see, so basically I used acrylic markers. I have a big set of Arctic acrylic markers that I don't use as often as I should. So I got those out, and that's actually what the water is. So I used two different shades of blue, and then I went over it with a white gel pen. But for me, the real star of this make is the sand. And so obviously, you could do this with real sand. I live in downtown Washington, D.C., so I don't have easy access to real sand, unfortunately. So, what this actually is, it's very textured, but it's actually, let me grab this for a second. So, it's a couple of these packs. So, this is a clay, a non-toxic natural clay, and these came in clothing. So they're what they put in the plastic packages from one of the companies I order my work shirts from. So instead of sort of like the crystals or whatever to keep out humidity, they have these little dry clay packets. And so I emptied a few of them, and I used them, and I just put down some matte medium and stuck the little clay, I guess, I don't know, it just looks like sand, I guess clay beads on, and it's great. It's so textured, it's very heavy. And then and then for the water, I just went over with a white gel pen to get these little lines, and then I used white texture paste to kind of make the water coming up on the beach. And then this I just had in my stash. So I bought a couple of kind of nautical or ocean themed silicone molds to use with air dry clay for another project. And I just needed one small shell, but I was like, I've got the clay out. I might as well make everything in the mold. So I had this starfish just in my stash and it's the perfect size. And then, yeah, I just took it and again, I used one of the acrylic markers and just painted it orange and then stuck it down with E6000 on top of the sand. And and then I used vintage words from a vintage book, a vacation to the seaside, which I thought was pretty perfect. So yeah, this is by far the favorite thing I made this week. Might actually be the favorite thing I've made so far in this entire 100-day project. So well worth the kind of the makes I was not maybe is super happy with early in the week to get to this. And I've definitely found that during the project is that the things I make obviously on Saturday and Sunday um, tend to be much more complete. I have a lot more time to sort of go into and do more complex mixed media things. Um, and so, yeah, so this was what I made this morning. Again, day 28, the theme was beach, and just absolutely love how this turned out. So yeah, so these are my makes for week 4 of the 100-day project, all my little mixed media Twinchies. And thank you so much for watching and for checking this out. And I will be back next week with what I make in the coming week. Thanks so much. Bye.